Hello all, this is going to be your review video for Test 5, and one of the first things you're going to have to tackle in Test 5 is finding the accounting rate of return for a potential investment. The accounting rate of return is the rate of return that you get on a investment or a project that you get into when you don't take into consideration the time value of money. In other words, in this case, Henry Hardware is going to treat that $240,000 net cash inflow in year 3 to be exactly the same as a $240,000 cash inflow in year 10. And obviously, to all of us, that makes no sense because no one would wait 10 years and have it be the same as 3 years. So let's start with this question. In this question, Henry Hardware is adding a new product line that will require an investment of $1,512,000 for new equipment. Their managers estimate this investment is going to have a 10-year life and that there will not be any residual value on the equipment they are investing in. Their expected cash flows from the product provided below. They are $310,000 in the first year, $270,000 in the second year, and then $240,000 for each year thereafter. So to start this out, we're going to need two things. We're going to need our average annual income and our average amount invested. Let's start by finding our average annual income. Our average annual income, the first input we're going to need is our sum of net cash inflow. So if we type equals sum of, and then open a parenthesis, highlight all our cash inflows, close the parenthesis, and hit enter, we see that Henry Hardware is going to have $2.5 million in cash inflows from this particular investment. From that, we need to subtract the depreciation over operating life. So for depreciation, it's always the same. Your depreciation is what the equipment is worth at the time that you invest in it, the historical cost, minus what it's worth on its last day, its salvage value. Well, from our information, we know that our initial investment is $512,000, $1,512,000, and we know that it doesn't have a residual value, so it's going to be zero. And obviously, $1,512,000 minus zero means that our depreciation over operating life is going to be that full $1,512,000. To find our operating income during its operating life, we take our net cash inflows and subtract from it the amount of depreciation that we're going to experience. So, taking depreciation into consideration, Henry Hardware is going to have $988,000 of operating income over the life of this project. For our next step, we need to divide it by our operating life, and as we can see here, our operating life is 10 years long, so let's type in 10. And then our average annual income is just that $988,000 of operating income over its life divided by its 10-year operating life, or $98,800 per year. Next up, we have to figure out what our average amount invested is. So our amount invested is how much we put into this project at the beginning of its tenure, and our information tells us that it's going to require an investment of $1,512,000, so that is our amount invested. Let's type that in, and we're going to add to that our residual value. Our residual value right here, there will not be one, so we can throw in 0, giving us a subtotal of our amount invested plus our residual value, which is still going to be the same, $1,512,000. Well, to find the average of something, you divide by 2. Essentially what we're finding is we're taking the amount that equipment is worth on the day that we purchase it, $1,512,000, what that equipment is going to be worth on the last day that we use it, which is going to be 0 because it doesn't have a residual value, and finding the average between those two numbers. So if we take $1,512,000 and divide it by 2, we find out that our average amount invested is $756,000. So to find our ARR, you take your average annual income, which we have above, so we'll just hit equals and click on that amount. You take your average amount invested, which we have here, and your ARR is equal to your average annual income divided by your average amount invested. And it's usually expressed as a percentage to 2 decimals, in this case 13.07%. So not taking into consideration the time value of money, Henry Hardware is going to have a return on this investment of about 13%, which is not too bad at all. Another way to find the return on a potential investment that does take into consideration the time value of money is the internal rate of return. So for Splash Nation here, we're going to figure out their IRR. Splash Nation is considering purchasing a water park for $1,910,000. This facility is expected to generate equal cash inflows of $483,000 for the next 8 years. However, the city has already informed Splash Nation that it will be seized by eminent domain at the end of year 8. Splash Nation's investors demand a 10% return on any investment, so we should use the IRR method to determine if Splash Nation should make this investment. So to figure this out, you're going to need your initial investment, which from our description tells us it's $1,910,000. And we're going to divide by the amount of each inflow, and that is $483,000. So if we divide our initial investment by the amount that we're going to get in cash inflow each year, we come up with 3.95 and a whole bunch of decimals afterwards. What this number is the number we can use to find our present value of an annuity factor. So we need to go to our present value of an annuity table and figure out where that lies on the line for the length of our investment, which is 8 years. So bring that guy up. I hope you can read this. We go to year 8 and we scroll over until we find the number that is closest to our 3.95, etc. And we're going, and look, we got to the end and it doesn't quite exist. So we have 3.83 at the end, which means that our return has to be somewhere in the ballpark of this number. So if this was me and I asked for my internal rate of return, I would say approximately 20%. However, we can do this another way too. What we can do is we can set up a couple of columns over here, and we can have one that says year and one that says cash inflow. We're going to start with our initial investment, and just wrap the text on that and blow it out so you guys can actually see it. Our initial investment is $1,910,000, and I'm going to put a negative in front of it because we're paying out the cash, so it's negative cash inflow. Afterwards, we're going to have 8 years worth of investment, so we can have year 1 and year 2. If you highlight both of them at once, go grab the fill handle and drag down. It's going to fill in the series. It's going to get us to 8 years. We have equal cash inflows. Each year it's $483,000. So we can click on that cell again, grab the fill handle, and fill it down. We have all of the information that we need to figure out our internal rate of return. And we're going to do that using the IRR function. So up here, there's a little symbol that says FX. It's the insert function. We're going to click on that. Up in the top it says type a brief description of what you are looking for. We're going to type in IRR and we're going to hit go, and it's going to find us the internal rate of return function. So we hit OK. What we need to do now is we need to highlight all of the cells that have our values, which are cells in this case F4 through F12, and if we hit enter on this we come up with 19%. Internal rate of return is an approximation. It basically is trial and error. To get to an exact number you have to throw in a mountain of different information and keep trying to balance it out until it gets to 0. It's very complex math. Thankfully Excel can do it for you. So if you want to use the IRR function, it will get you to your exact rate of return because it can do a ton of calculations in a very short order of time. So that is the first two. Next video is going to have the next two things I want you to do, which is payback and net present value. So I will see you there.